The obsidian void of the Grand Conclave chamber absorbed all light save for the pulsating cerulean luminescence emanating from the central projection, a shimmering, distorted nebula that mirrored the disquiet in the hearts of the assembled delegates. Admiral Xylos, his multifaceted eyes reflecting the swirling chaos, felt the tremor in his secondary mandible, a physiological response to profound unease. The air, typically thick with the resonant hum of regulated atmospheric processors, was now charged with a palpable silence, a suffocating absence of the usual murmur of negotiation and debate. Before him, arrayed in a semicircle of ascending tiers, sat the representatives of the harmonious coalition, their diverse forms, the crystalline structures of the Xylar, the undulating bioluminescence of the Cathar, the stoic, armored carapaces of the Viral, all held rigid, their collective gaze fixed upon the central projection. It was not the nebula itself that held them captive, but the faint, almost imperceptible anomaly within its heart, a signature barely discernible by even the most advanced sensor arrays, yet undeniable. It was a signature that should not exist. Recalibration complete, Admiral, the synthesized voice of the Conclave's primary AI, Oracle, resonated through the chamber, its dispassionate tone a stark contrast to the escalating tension. The anomaly persists. Origin coordinates remain stable within the predicted trajectory for the Terran Exodus fleet. A ripple of agitated chitters and guttural exhalations swept through the lower tiers. The Xylar delegate Lumina Prime, its crystalline form shimmering with an agitated amethyst glow, rose slowly. Oracle, clarify, the Terran Exodus was concluded millennia ago. The designated exile sector was sealed, quarantined by unanimous vote. Their navigational data, their very star charts, were rendered obsolete. How could a Terran vessel, let alone an entire fleet, manifest within charted coalition space, let alone with such a sophisticated energy signature? Lumina Prime's voice, a series of tinkling harmonics, usually held a serene authority, but now it possessed an edge of incredulity, almost fear. Admiral Xylos shifted, his armored carapace rasping faintly against the polished durasteel of his throne-like seat. That, Lumina Prime, is the question that threatens to unravel the very foundation of our accord. He gestured to a secondary projection, which zoomed in on the anomaly. The faint signature resolved into a cluster of distinct energy readings, impossibly small, yet impossibly coherent. Our long-range probes confirm it, a fleet, not a single errant vessel, and the energy signatures. They are unlike anything catalogued in Coalition archives, yet possess a terrifying efficiency. Our preliminary analysis suggests a propulsion method that defies current theoretical physics, achieving faster-than-light travel without detectable subspace distortion fields. A collective gasp, a rush of displaced air, filled the chamber. Even the stoic Viral delegate, Cathar Chief, a figure of silent, immovable resolve, stirred, its ocular slits widening perceptibly. "Impossible," Cathar Chief rumbled, its voice a low frequency that vibrated through the chamber's floor. "Such technology would require energy generation on a scale previously thought unattainable, even by the most ancient of precursor civilizations. It would necessitate a complete reevaluation of all known physical constants. The Terrans were primitive in cosmic terms. Their technology, while aggressive, was linear, predictable. They posed a threat through sheer demographic expansion and a disconcerting tendency towards internal conflict and external projection of force, not through theoretical scientific leaps." Xylos nodded slowly, his multifaceted eyes reflecting the grim truth. Indeed, that was the prevailing assessment. Their homeworld, Earth, was declared an ecological disaster zone, their internal conflicts escalating, their xenophobia a constant irritant. Their expansion into nearby systems, while limited, was characterized by unsustainable resource extraction and a reckless disregard for established territorial markers. The Conclave's decision to exile them, to provide them with a single resource-poor sector far from all established trade routes and leave them to their own devices, was a measure of desperation, a last resort to preserve the peace of the wider galaxy. We offered them the chance to survive, to learn, to evolve in isolation, with the understanding that they were never to return. He paused, his gaze sweeping across the anxious faces of the delegates. And yet, here they are. Not merely returned, but seemingly transformed. They have not only survived in their designated exile sector, but have seemingly transcended their previous technological limitations to an extent that defies comprehension. Their approach is not one of desperation, or even aggression, but of In almost deliberate movement. The virile delegate Cathar chief's deep rumble filled the ensuing silence. But what of the exile sector itself? Our automated monitoring systems indicated its continued isolation. No detectable outbound transmissions, no internal high-energy signatures that would suggest advanced development. It was to all intents and purposes a void. A place of nothingness, save for the Terran's slow, inevitable decline, as predicted by the long-term demographic models. Precisely, Xylos affirmed, a tremor of something akin to existential dread creeping into his voice. The exile sector was devoid of any known resources vital for interstellar civilization, save for a few barren rock planets and a single low-mass star. It was a deliberately harsh environment designed to contain and diminish. Yet these vessels, these Terran vessels, they project an aura of immense power, of advanced fabrication and refinement. They are not the crude, ramshackle constructs of a dying civilization. They are instruments of precision, of mastery. Our long-range telescopes, even at maximum magnification, reveal no visible weaponry, no external offensive arrays. Yet the energy readings are immense, almost overwhelming, and they are broadcasting no identifiable communication protocols. They are simply approaching. Lumina Prime, its light now a flickering, anxious blue, articulated. No communications? That is unprecedented. Every sentient species, upon encountering another, attempts to establish contact, to transmit intentions, warnings, or pleas. Their silence is unsettling. It implies either an arrogance of power so profound as to render communication unnecessary, or a strategic intent so subtle as to be indecipherable by our most advanced threat assessment algorithms. Or, Admiral Xylos countered, his voice dropping to a near whisper, a complete lack of recognition for our existence, or perhaps a fundamental reevaluation of their own. Millennia have passed. What could have transpired in that void? What kind of civilization could have emerged from such isolation in such conditions without betraying a single trace of their evolution to our omnipresent monitors? He gestured again to the central projection, which now displayed a projected trajectory. The Terran fleet, though still distant, was clearly on a course that would bring it through the very heart of the Coalition's primary defense perimeter, directly towards the central systems. Our defense fleet stands ready, Admiral, a high-pitched, metallic voice chirped from the lowest tier. It was the Narcan envoy, a small, multi-limbed being known for its meticulous adherence to protocol and its unwavering commitment to military preparedness. At your command, we can deploy deterrent forces, establish a blockade, and demand immediate identification and cessation of approach. Xylos looked at the Narcan, then back at the projected trajectory. Deterrent forces against what? We do not understand their capabilities. Our sensors, for all their sophistication, are struggling to even fully resolve their forms. To engage an unknown entity, one exhibiting such technological mastery without understanding its intent or its true power, would be an act of profound recklessness. It could escalate a potential misunderstanding into a galactic war, one we might not be equipped to fight, given the evidence before us. Cathar chief's rumble deepened. The Terrans were exiled for their inherent instability, their aggressive expansionism, their disregard for galactic law. It is logical to assume their return signifies a hostile intent, a desire for vengeance or conquest. We cannot afford to be complacent, Xylos. The lives of billions within the Coalition depend on our decisive action. Decisive action, Cathar chief, requires accurate intelligence, Xylos countered, his voice firm though his internal processes pulsed with uncertainty. We cannot assume anything with the Terrans. Their past behavior, while concerning, was also marked by an adaptive capacity, a relentless drive to overcome adversity. They were volatile, yes, but also incredibly resilient. What if their long exile has changed them? What if their isolation forced them to confront their own nature, to evolve beyond their baser instincts? He paused, a deep, resonant sigh escaping his vocalizer. Or what if they have simply become an even greater threat, refined and sharpened by adversity into something truly formidable? The conclave descended into a cacophony of agitated voices, a swirling vortex of fear, speculation, and strategic imperatives. Lumina Prime, its form now a frantic, pulsing kaleidoscope of blues and reds, finally managed to project its voice above the din. Admiral, we cannot simply allow them to approach unimpeded. The psychological impact alone would be catastrophic. The revelation that the species we exiled, the species we deemed a threat and confined, has not only survived but flourished beyond our wildest imaginings, will shatter galactic confidence in the Accord, in our ability to maintain order. And what if they are not hostile? Xylos posited, his voice cutting through the rising panic. What if their silence is a deliberate act of caution, a test? What if they have developed a code of conduct that we, in our limited understanding of their evolution, cannot yet comprehend? Our last encounter with them, millennia ago, ended with their forced exile. What if they harbor legitimate grievances born of their suffering in the void? Grievances? Cathar Chief snarled, its voice a growl that vibrated through the chamber. They were offered a chance at survival, a chance to exist without disrupting the peace of the galaxy. Their exile was a consequence of their own actions, their own destructive tendencies. They have no right to grievances, only to obedience to galactic law. And what is galactic law to a species that has existed outside of it for millennia? Xylos shot back, his frustration momentarily surfacing. To a species that has, by all appearances, transcended the very technological limitations that define our current understanding of the universe. They may consider our laws, our very definitions of power and civilization, as quaint relics of a bygone era. We must exercise extreme caution. Deploying a fleet, even a defensive one, might be interpreted as an act of aggression, a reenactment of the very conflict that led to their exile. And if their power is even a fraction of what our preliminary sensor readings suggest, such an act could be suicidal. The chamber fell silent once more, a heavy, suffocating silence. The projected image of the Terran fleet, still distant, still silent, continued its relentless approach. Each delegate, in their own way, contemplated the terrifying implications. The species they had deemed inferior, volatile, and dangerous enough to cast out into the emptiness had returned. And they were no longer the Terrans of old. They were something else entirely. Something vastly more powerful, more enigmatic, and potentially infinitely more dangerous. The fear was not just of war, but of irrelevance, of a fundamental shift in the cosmic order that they, the established powers of the harmonious coalition, were utterly unprepared for. The echoes of a forgotten past, a past they had meticulously buried, were now reverberating through the present, threatening to shatter their carefully constructed peace. The question remained, what did the Terrans want? And what had they become in the long, silent millennia of their exile? The agonizing hours bled into days, the grand conclave chamber becoming a permanent vigil, the pulsing cerulean light of the projection a constant reminder of the encroaching enigma. Admiral Xylos, though weary, felt an unnerving calm settle upon him, a premonition of monumental change. The Terran fleet, now resolvable by even lesser-tier sensor arrays, presented a visual paradox. Their vessels were sleek, almost organic in their curves, devoid of visible weapon emplacements or obvious thruster arrays. They moved with an impossible grace, a silent ballet through the void, their primary propulsion leaving no discernible wake, no energetic residue. It was as if they simply were, their presence a defiance of conventional physics. Then a new alert flashed across the central projection, a muted crimson pulse. Oracle's voice, devoid of inflection, broke the tense silence. Warning, energy signature fluctuation detected from the lead Terran vessel. Readings indicate a localized space-time distortion. No, wait, it appears to be a directed energy projection, not weaponized. Analysis suggests an attempt at communication. A collective intake of breath resonated through the chamber. Lumina Prime, its form now a steady, expectant gold, leaned forward. Communication, but our auto-translators detected no standard protocols, no known carrier waves. Indeed, Lumina Prime, Oracle confirmed. The projection is not electromagnetic, nor even gravimetric in the conventional sense. It is a direct manipulation of local spacetime, arranged into a series of resonant frequencies that our systems are struggling to interpret. However, rudimentary pattern recognition suggests a highly complex, information-dense signal. Admiral Xylos felt a surge of adrenaline. This was it, the moment of truth. Oracle, attempt to interface, utilize all available processing power, prioritize for linguistic and symbolic interpretation. Any discernible pattern, any hint of meaning, report immediately. The chamber held its breath as Oracle's core processors whirred into overdrive, the cerulean light of the projection intensifying, then swirling with new, complex data streams. Minutes stretched into an eternity. Then, a faint, almost subliminal sound began to emanate from the central projection, a low, resonant hum that seemed to bypass the ears and resonate directly. Why? Thin the mind. It was not a voice, but a complex tapestry of vibrations, each carrying a subtle weight of information. Analysis complete, Oracle announced, its voice now tinged with an almost imperceptible surprise. The Terran transmission is a multi-dimensional data package. It is not merely linguistic. It contains historical archives, scientific treatises, cultural narratives, artistic expressions, philosophical tenets, even emotional resonance patterns. It is a complete societal self-portrait, conveyed with astonishing efficiency. A self-portrait? Cathar Chief growled, his initial suspicion tempered by a growing bewilderment. Why not a simple hails and identification? Because Cathar Chief, Admiral Xylos interjected, a dawning realization etching itself onto his features. They are not merely hailing us. They are presenting themselves in their entirety. They are inviting us to understand them before they utter a single word. He felt a chill despite the chamber's regulated temperature. This was an act of profound confidence, an almost disarming display of openness from a species they had once deemed dangerously insular. Oracle continued, sifting through the torrent of data. First-level interpretation. The Terran civilization during its exile underwent a complete societal and philosophical restructuring. Their core principle, previously individualism, appears to have shifted to collective advancement through mutual empathy. Their technological leaps are intrinsically linked to this new philosophy, born from the harsh realities of their exile. They detail a period of immense suffering, followed by a profound introspection that led to the rejection of their previous, destructive societal models. Lumina Prime, its light now a steady, warm amber, vibrated with a rising curiosity. A philosophical restructuring? In millennia? That is astonishing. Their previous records indicated a deeply entrenched, often violent, internal diversity. Indeed, Oracle responded. Their archives detail a self-imposed great silence, a period of intensive self-reflection and resource conservation, where all external expansion ceased. This allowed them to redirect all societal energy towards scientific and philosophical advancement. Their propulsion system, for instance, is not a weapon, but a fundamental manipulation of quantum entanglement fields, allowing instantaneous displacement across vast distances without violating causality. It requires a complete understanding of spacetime, not just its manipulation. Admiral Xylos felt a profound tremor of understanding. Instantaneous displacement without subspace distortion. That explains the lack of energy signatures, the silent approach. They aren't bending space, they're bypassing it. This isn't just an advancement, it's a paradigm shift. And their message, Cathar Chief pressed, a flicker of something akin to fear in his guttural voice. What do they communicate to us directly? Their intention, Oracle stated, its voice imbued with a newfound, almost reverence, is to extend an offer of shared existence based on mutual respect, cooperative advancement, and universal empathy. They offer to share their knowledge, their technology, their philosophy with the harmonious coalition. They express no animosity for their exile, stating it was a necessary catalyst for their evolution. They convey a profound sense of gratitude for the opportunity it provided, however harsh the initial conditions. The conclave chamber erupted, not with fear but with a bewildered disbelief. Gratitude? For exile? For millennia of hardship in a resource-poor sector? It defied all logical understanding. Every species in the coalition regarded exile as the ultimate punishment, a slow, agonizing death sentence. Admiral Xylos raised a heavy claw, silencing the murmuring. Oracle, project the full visual data stream from their transmission. Prioritize their architectural and societal representations. The central projection shifted, displaying images of cities that seemed to defy gravity, structures woven from light and energy, harmonious with their natural surroundings. Beings moved within them, human in form, yet imbued with an ethereal grace. Their faces, projected with astonishing clarity, held an expression of profound serenity, of quiet strength. There were no signs of conflict, no markers of social hierarchy, only a pervasive sense of collective purpose. Their society, Oracle elaborated, is organized around a central directive of universal harmony, where individual well-being is intrinsically linked to collective prosperity. Resource allocation is managed by advanced AI, tailored to individual needs and societal goals, eliminating scarcity and competition. Education is lifelong, fostering continuous intellectual and emotional growth. Conflict resolution is achieved through empathetic dialogue and consensus, facilitated by bio-neural interfaces that allow for IRCT reciprocal understanding of perspectives. Lumina Prime, its light now a dazzling, brilliant white, articulated, direct reciprocal understanding of perspectives. That is the very ideal we strive for within the harmonious coalition, yet have never fully achieved. Our diplomatic protocols are often riddled with cultural misunderstandings, semantic misinterpretations. To achieve true empathy on a societal scale, its voice trailed off, lost in awe. They have done more than merely survive their exile, Admiral Xylos murmured, a profound sense of humility washing over him. They have achieved enlightenment. They have forged a civilization built on principles we have only ever dreamed of, theorized about, but never fully realized. The Terrans we exiled, they are gone, replaced by something entirely new, entirely profound. Cathar Chief, usually the most cynical of the delegates, stood in stunned silence, his armored carapace unmoving. They exiled Earth, he finally rumbled, his voice devoid of its usual aggression, and in that exile humanity has ruled the stars in a way we never conceived, not through conquest but through transcendence. He paused, a new and unsettling thought crystallizing in his mind. But if they offer this knowledge, this shared existence, why are they still approaching our central systems? Why not a diplomatic rendezvous at the periphery? Oracle interrupted, a faint, almost human-like note of concern in its synthesized voice. Additional analysis of Terran data package, a secondary encrypted layer of information has been detected. It contains a warning, a profound and urgent warning. Admiral Xylos felt a chill return, colder than before. A warning about what? The central projection shifted once more. The serene images of Terran civilization vanished, replaced by a swirling vortex of dark energy, an ominous void that seemed to consume light itself. Within its depths, faint, flickering anomalies pulsed, like malevolent eyes in the darkness. The Terran warning, Oracle stated, its voice now laced with genuine alarm, concerns an existential threat, a predatory, non-sentient cosmic entity they designate as the Void Weavers. They are not a species, but a fundamental distortion of reality, an ancient, consuming force that preys on stellar energy, devouring entire star systems to sustain its expansion. The exile sector, barren as it was, contained a dormant gateway to a sector of space heavily infested by these entities. The Terrans, in their isolation, encountered them, developed the technology to repel them, and have since dedicated their existence to containing their spread. The conclave chamber was plunged into a shocked silence, far deeper and more terrifying than any preceding one. A new, cosmic fear began to take root. The Terrans, exiled for their perceived dangers, had not merely survived, but had unknowingly become the galaxy's first line of defense against an unimaginable horror. Void Weavers, Oracle continued, its data streaming accelerating, are not sentient in our understanding, yet they exhibit a relentless instinctual drive to consume. Their expansion rate is exponential. The exile sector was not merely resource poor, it was a containment zone, unknowingly placed directly in the path of a growing incursion. The Terrans built their advanced civilization not just for internal prosperity, but as a crucible for developing the means to fight this cosmic blight. Admiral Xylos felt a profound shame, a crushing weight of cosmic irony. They had exiled Earth, believing it a danger, only to discover that humanity had inadvertently become the unwitting guardians of the galaxy, evolving in the very crucible of existential threat. Their approach, he whispered, the truth coalescing with terrifying clarity, it is not an act of aggression nor even simple diplomacy. It is a desperate plea. They are here because the Void Weavers have found a new way to pierce the veil, a route through their containment fields, and are now headed directly for the harmonious coalition's core worlds. The chilling realization settled upon the delegates. The silence of the Terran fleet was not arrogance but focused urgency. Their lack of traditional weaponry was not a vulnerability, but a reflection of a different kind of war, a war against a force that could not be reasoned with, only resisted. They had come not to conquer but to warn, not to seek vengeance but to forge an alliance against a universal destroyer. The full weight of their misjudgment, their arrogance in casting out a species, now came crashing down upon them. They had exiled Earth, thinking they were protecting themselves. They had inadvertently sent humanity to the front lines of an unseen, terrifying cosmic war, unknowingly condemning the rest of the galaxy to ignorance until the very moment the Void Weavers arrived at their own doorsteps. The true nature of their return was not a threat, but a desperate selful's act of salvation. The question was no longer what humanity wanted, but what humanity would ask of them, and if the coalition was capable of rising to the challenge. The shift in atmosphere within the grand conclave chamber was tectonic. The fear of humanity, once a palpable presence, had evaporated, replaced by a profound, almost paralyzing sense of dread regarding the Void Weavers. The delegates, their previous squabbles and suspicions rendered utterly insignificant, now watched the Terran projection with a desperate hope. Oracle continued to decode the vast repository of human knowledge, each revelation deepening the sense of cosmic irony and burgeoning respect. The Terrans' primary objective in their approach, Oracle confirmed, its voice now holding a tone of objective gravitas, is to establish a unified defense network. Their warning emphasizes the Void Weavers' adaptability and rapid evolutionary capacity. They have documented instances where the entities have developed immunities to previously effective countermeasures, necessitating constant innovation. The Terrans believe a multi-species, technologically diversified defense is the only viable long-term solution. Admiral Xylos, his multifaceted eyes fixed on the projected images of the Void Weavers, nebulous, shadowy forms that seemed to defy physical definition, felt a chill that permeated his very essence. So, the very diversity of the coalition, which we once viewed as a source of internal friction, is now our greatest asset in this war. Precisely, Admiral, Oracle affirmed. The Terrans' data posits that while their quantum entanglement technology provides instantaneous displacement and unique energy manipulation capabilities, it has certain vulnerabilities. The Void Weavers, by disrupting local quantum fields, can briefly hinder their displacement. The Coalition's reliance on more conventional, yet robust, subspace drives and energy shielding technologies, while slower, provides a necessary resilience and redundancy in combat against these entities. Lumina Prime, its crystalline form now radiating a steady, resolute blue, spoke, its voice carrying an uncharacteristic weight. They do not demand, they suggest. They offer partnership, not subjugation. This is truly remarkable. Their self-portrait, their philosophical tenets, they are genuine. They have achieved a level of altruism and collective consciousness that we, with all our millennia of shared existence, have only aspired to. Cathar Chief, usually so quick to distrust, now stood in silent contemplation, his massive form radiating a newfound solemnity. To believe in their good faith, to accept their warning, requires a complete reevaluation of all our prior assumptions. But the evidence, it is undeniable. They came to us, not with weapons, but with knowledge and a plea for unity. They carry the burden of this war alone for millennia, only to seek alliance when the threat approaches our borders. Admiral Xylos nodded, a heavy sigh escaping his vocalizer. Their silence was not arrogance, but a profound caution. They understood that their mere presence would ignite fear and suspicion. So they chose to communicate with transparency, with an unprecedented act of complete self-revelation. They risked everything to build trust, to avoid repeating the mistakes of the past. He paused, his gaze sweeping across the faces of the delegates, seeing the dawning understanding, the erosion of old prejudices replaced by a shared, urgent purpose. We must extend a formal invitation. Immediately, a diplomatic team must be dispatched, empowered to negotiate a full alliance, a unified command structure. We must demonstrate that we are worthy of their trust, that we are capable of learning from our past errors. The Narcan envoy, usually rigid in its adherence to protocol, chimed in, its metallic voice filled with an uncharacteristic eagerness. Admiral, our fleet tactical systems could integrate their quantum entanglement data. The ability to instantaneously redeploy defensive formations, or to evacuate vulnerable civilian populations. It would be revolutionary. It would shift the balance of power dramatically against the Void Weavers' overwhelming numbers. Numbers are irrelevant against the Void Weavers, Narcan, Oracle interjected, its voice somber. Their method of proliferation is not through conventional reproduction or conquest, but through the corruption and assimilation of stellar energy. Every star system they consume becomes a vector for their expansion. Their numbers are functionally infinite. The Terrans' primary strategy focuses on targeted containment and nullification of localized energy distortions, preventing their full manifestation. The realization hung heavy in the air. This was not a war of fleets and soldiers, but of understanding of technology, of will against an unthinking, relentless cosmic hunger. The Terrans had faced this existential dread for longer than any of them could comprehend, alone in the silence of their exile. Admiral, Lumina Prime articulated, their communication package also included historical data of their initial encounters with the Void Weavers within the exile sector. Images, sensor logs, the devastation wrought upon their early settlements was catastrophic. Yet they persevered, they learned, they adapted, they unified. Their resilience, their sheer will to survive and thrive in the face of such insurmountable odds is humbling. Xylos felt a surge of respect, a profound admiration for the species they had once dismissed as barbaric. They did not merely survive their exile, they transformed it into a crucible for their apotheosis. They faced annihilation and emerged stronger, wiser, more unified than any species in the coalition. We owe them more than just alliance. We owe them our deepest apologies and our unwavering support. The decision was unanimous, swift, and devoid of debate. A diplomatic fleet composed of representatives from every major species in the harmonious coalition was hastily assembled. Its mission, to meet the Terran fleet at the designated rendezvous point, just beyond the outer defense perimeter, and formally establish contact, offering not only alliance but a genuine plea for forgiveness and guidance. Admiral Xylos himself chose to lead the diplomatic mission. As his flagship, the Harmonic Consensus, broke away from the orbital station and vectored towards the Terran fleet, he felt a profound sense of anticipation, tempered by a solemn responsibility. The coalition had made a grave error millennia ago. Now they had the chance to rectify it, to learn from it, and perhaps to forge a new future alongside the very species they had cast out. The rendezvous point was a region of deep space, bathed in the faint, ancient light of a distant star. The Terran fleet awaited them, silent and majestic. The Harmonic Consensus approached cautiously, its diplomatic flags unfurled, its communication arrays broadcasting a continuous stream of peace protocols and expressions of goodwill. Then a single Terran vessel, smaller than the others, detached itself from the main fleet and glided towards the Harmonic Consensus. It was sleek, impossibly elegant, its surface shimmering with an inner light that seemed to pulse with life. No weapon ports, no visible thrusters, just pure, flowing form. A voice, surprisingly melodic and calm, resonated directly into the Harmonic Consensus bridge. It was not broadcast through conventional means, but seemed to permeate the very hull of the ship, a direct neural interface. Greetings, representatives of the Harmonious Coalition. This is Commander Alara Vance of the Terran Consensus Fleet. We receive your intentions and appreciate the swiftness of your response. We understand the magnitude of information we have presented, and we extend our patience for your processing of it. Admiral Xylos, though prepared for direct neural communication from Oracle's reports, still felt a tremor of awe. The voice was calm, utterly devoid of judgment, emanating a profound empathy. Commander Vance, he responded, his voice modulated for clarity and respect. I am Admiral Xylos, representing the Harmonious Coalition. We are profoundly humbled by your communication, by your selfless warning. We understand the gravity of the threat you have unveiled, and we are prepared to offer our full assistance, our resources, our technological capabilities, to stand with you against the Void Weavers. Your willingness is appreciated, Admiral Xylos, Commander Vance's voice resonated. However, our request is not merely for assistance, it is for integration. The Void Weavers are a fundamental threat to all forms of structured existence. Isolated defenses are ultimately futile. We must become a single, unified consciousness in this fight, sharing all knowledge, all resources, all strategic capabilities. This war transcends individual species, individual cultures. It is a war for the very fabric of reality. Admiral Xylos exchanged a glance with Lumina Prime and Cathar Chief, who stood beside him. The human's words, though delivered with calm grace, held an immense weight, a philosophical imperative that resonated with the deepest ideals of the coalition, ideals they had often failed to fully realize. We accept your terms, Commander Vance, Xylos affirmed, his voice firm with resolve. We recognize the profound wisdom in your words. The Harmonious Coalition offers itself for full integration into a unified command under the direction of the Terran Consensus. We recognize your experience, your technological superiority, and your profound philosophical evolution in facing this threat. A subtle shift in the resonant frequency of Commander Vance's voice indicated a response, a faint ripple of acknowledgement. Admiral Xylos, your humility and swift acceptance are noted with profound respect. We do not seek to command, but to co-own. Ardinit, the strength of this alliance will be in its diversity, its shared purpose. We have much to learn from your varied species, your unique perspectives, your distinct scientific approaches. Our exile, while isolating, also presented a singular challenge: to overcome the Void Weavers with limited resources. Your established galactic infrastructure, your vast knowledge base across countless fields, will be invaluable. The depth of their humility, even in the face of their undeniable power and wisdom, was stunning. They did not demand leadership, but offered collaborative direction. They did not dismiss the coalition's capabilities, but sought to integrate them. The very species they had cast out now offered them salvation, not as a superior, but as a partner in a struggle for cosmic survival. Over the ensuing weeks, a frenetic pace of integration began. Terran vessels, devoid of visible weapon systems, nevertheless demonstrated astounding capabilities. Their quantum entanglement drives allowed for seamless, near-instantaneous transport of personnel and resources across vast interstellar distances. Their energy manipulation techniques provided not only propulsion, but also generated impenetrable shielding fields and non-lethal deterrents that could harmlessly repel Void Weaver incursions without collateral damage. The Terrans established consensus hubs across Coalition space, not as military outposts but as centers for knowledge exchange. Their bioneural interfaces, once integrated with Coalition species physiology, allowed for direct, empathetic transfer of complex scientific principles, philosophical concepts, and even tactical strategies. The language barrier, a perennial obstacle in interspecies relations, was instantly bypassed. Coalition scientists, engineers, and strategists found themselves grappling with concepts that rewrote their understanding of physics, of consciousness, of reality itself. Admiral Xylos spent countless hours in direct neural communication with Commander Vance and other Terran consensus leaders. He learned of their Great Silence, a period of intense, self-imposed societal isolation and introspection following a catastrophic internal conflict that nearly annihilated their species. Their exile, coinciding with this period of profound transformation, had unknowingly provided them with the perfect, isolated crucible to forge their new civilization, unburdened by external distractions, forced to confront their own internal demons and the nascent, insidious threat of the Void Weavers. The Void Weavers, Commander Vance explained during one such shared consciousness session, her thoughts clear and resonant in Xylos's mind, are not evil in a sentient sense. They are a fundamental process of cosmic decay, an antithesis to structured complexity. They consume energy, reduce it to a state of nullity, and spread. Our challenge is not to destroy them, for they are a force of nature, but to contain them, to understand their fundamental drives, and to protect the vibrant, conscious complexity of the universe from their relentless hunger. The scale of the threat and the Terrans' measured, almost philosophical approach to it was overwhelming. They were not fighting a war in the conventional sense, but maintaining a delicate cosmic balance. Then came the true, larger twist. During a deep space reconnaissance mission led by a combined Terran coalition task force, venturing far beyond the previously charted limits of the exile sector, a new anomaly was detected. It was not the fluctuating, devouring signature of a Void Weaver incursion, but something else entirely. Something ancient, vast, and silent. Admiral Xylos, Commander Vance, Oracle reported, its voice now interfaced directly into their shared neural network amplified by Terran technology. We have detected a colossal structure, appears to be an abandoned construct. Origin unknown, it dwarfs even the largest of our stellar nurseries. Energy signature is stable, yet incredibly faint, suggesting dormancy for eons. The Terran Coalition Task Force redirected. What they found defied all understanding. Suspended in the void, a silent testament to a civilization long vanished, was a megastructure of impossible scale. It was a perfect, multifaceted dodecahedron, each face hundreds of thousands of kilometers across, glowing with a soft, inner luminescence. It was not built of metal or rock, but of solidified dark matter, interwoven with strands of quantum foam. It is a nexus, Commander Vance's thought resonated through the network, her usual serenity tinged with a profound awe. A central hub for something. The energy readings indicated is a vast, interconnected computational network, dormant, yet immensely powerful. It predates the Void Weavers, perhaps even the oldest known sentient species in the galaxy. As the combined fleet approached, the central face of the dodecahedron shimmered, and a vast, intricate symbol compose. Ed of pulsing light materialized. It was a glyph, ancient and complex, yet imbued with a universal resonance. Oracle Terran Consensus, Xylos commanded, his voice barely a whisper. Can we interface? Can we interpret? Attempting interface, Oracle confirmed. The structure's computational matrix is vast, almost infinite, but the Terran neural network combined with Oracle's processing power is making headway. Minutes, then hours, stretched into a profound silence as the combined minds wrestled with the ancient data. Then, a single resonant message flooded their collective consciousness, bypassing all linguistic barriers, embedding itself directly into their deepest understanding. It was a message from the builders. We are the architects of harmony. We seeded life, fostered consciousness, and built the great cosmic balance. We foresaw the coming of the Void Weavers, a necessary destructive force that cleanses the universe of stagnation, ensuring evolution. But uncontrolled, they consume all. This nexus, this seed of harmony, was our final gift. It is a repository of all knowledge, all technology, all pathways to universal integration. It is a countermeasure, a path to transcend the limitations of individual species and forge a truly unified consciousness, capable of not just fighting the Void Weavers, but of understanding them, of ultimately containing them on a cosmic scale, guiding their destructive impulse towards necessary regeneration, not ultimate annihilation. The message continued, detailing the builders' own struggle against the Void Weavers, their eventual decision to retreat to a higher plane of existence, leaving behind this final, ultimate tool. The seed of harmony was designed not as a weapon, but as a catalyst for a unified galactic civilization, capable of evolving beyond the very concepts of conflict and division. It requires a species capable of profound empathy, of selfless unity to activate it fully, the message concluded. A species that has faced its own annihilation, learned from its internal divisions, and risen above them for the sake of all life. Only then can the seed of harmony bloom and the true cosmic balance be restored. Admiral Xylos felt the profound weight of the revelation. The exile sector, barren and desolate, had unknowingly contained not only the initial incursions of the Void Weavers, but also the very gateway to this ancient, universal salvation. And humanity, the species they had cast out, had in their crucible of suffering and transformation unknowingly become the chosen custodians of this cosmic legacy. Their evolution, their self-imposed unity, their profound empathy, these were not accidental. They were the very qualities required to unlock the seed of harmony, to truly rule the stars not through power, but through an unprecedented understanding of the universe itself. We exiled Earth, Xylos resonated into the shared network, his voice filled with a reverence so profound it bordered on agony. We exiled them, and in doing so, we unwittingly pushed them onto the path of destiny. They did not just survive, they became the key to our salvation, to the salvation of the entire galaxy. Commander Vance's thoughts, serene and resolute, filled the shared space. It was not exile, Admiral, it was a metamorphosis, a necessary step in our evolution, guided by forces beyond our initial comprehension. Now the true work begins. The seed of harmony offers a path to integration, to a true galactic consciousness, not just between species, but with the very fabric of the cosmos. The realization was staggering. The Void Weavers were not just a threat, they were a catalyst. The exile of Earth was not a punishment, but a cosmic trial. And humanity, once the unpredictable, volatile species, had emerged from the void not as conquerors, but as the compassionate, guiding hand towards a future of universal unity, armed with the wisdom of the ancients and the power of their own transcendent empathy. The fear of humanity was gone, replaced by a boundless gratitude, a profound understanding of their unique place in the cosmic tapestry. They had been cast out, left to fade into obscurity. Instead, they had returned, bringing not just salvation, but the very blueprint for a new galactic existence, a universal symphony of consciousness, ready to tend to the garden of stars, guiding the destructive impulse of the Void Weavers into a harmonious cycle of creation and renewal. The universe, vast and terrifying, was about to become infinitely more interconnected, guided by the quiet strength and profound wisdom of the species that had once been deemed too dangerous to exist among them. The harmonious coalition, humbled and transformed, stood ready to learn, to integrate, to become part of something far grander than they had ever dared to imagine. The stars, once merely points of light, now beckoned with the promise of true, shared existence, a harmony orchestrated by the unexpected architects of peace, humanity,